everyone, welcome to another episode of the No Man's Land. My name's Angela Ramirez. Today we're talking about a very interesting new development in the Denver protests. It has come to the attention of myself, because I'm the only writer here, that one of the people who goes to the Denver protests on a regular basis is actually a transnational volunteer who traveled overseas all the way to Iraq to take up arms against ISIS. This individual has now returned from the Middle East and is now he's now gone from pretty much fighting ISIS to trying to abolish the police in Denver. So, needless to say, this is a very interesting development. I do not believe this story has been covered anywhere else. It is an exclusive here on the No Man's Land, so that's kind of exciting. Anyway, so let's get into it. This is the individual in question. His name is Michael Windecker. Michael Windecker has a very interesting history, and we're going to get into it here in the blog. He went by the name Necromancer, I believe, while he was fighting with the Kurdish forces. Here we see a patch that looks like I believe that's Arabic. We see a Colorado patch. This is the Colorado flag. There's the C and the lines. He has a name patch here on his chest. It says Necromancer, and it's hard to make this one out over here. This is more Borgia. I don't know what that means. I think it's Italian, but it's unclear. Now, let's get into this individual. Like I said, this is an individual who regularly attends the anti-police protests. He traveled overseas at one point in 2014 to fight against ISIS with the Kurdish forces. He's a Colorado native. Again, his name is Michael Windecker, aka Mickey. He goes by Mickey. Now that he is back on U.S. soil, he's made a habit out of going to the protests up in Denver. He's actually even been the leader of a few of the chants for the Abolish the Police Antifa group. He is caught on video shouting the lead to the chant to a group of individuals who have like wooden plywood shields. So this week, however, the reason this came to my attention is I follow very closely a few of the Antifa accounts here in Colorado Springs and Denver area, and one of these individuals who is a known Antifa individual, he or she posted basically a warning to Denver comrades saying that this individual, Michael Windecker, is actually a risk, and they kind of flagged him as a risk to the movement. So this is very interesting. This is my first time seeing somebody be flagged by Antifa as a risk to the movement. This, I believe, was spiked by the fact that Windecker's history as a registered sex offender came to light. I believe when he was 20 years old, he molested a 14-year-old child and failed to register as a sex offender in 2010. He was fined and jailed for that. And it is now coming to the attention of Colorado Springs anti-fascists, and they're starting to warn Denver comrades that this might not be somebody they want to have around. From the dialogue I've seen back and forth online, it looks like some of the Denver individuals would like to keep Windecker and don't see an issue with him. They have redeemed him or whatever from his past. Colorado Springs anti-fascists, however, are not a fan of having him in the movement. So let's go ahead and read about this. Here is a tweet from Colorado Springs Antifa. They say, Denver alert at sexual assault, child sexual assault. So I'm guessing those are the two charges that they discovered on this individual. Be aware of Michael Mickey A. Windecker II, who frequents Denver area anti-police protests. He was convicted of third-degree sexual assault when he was 20 and the victim was 14. They went ahead and included some pictures of him. This is a picture of him, I believe, at one of the protests. He wears a GoPro camera on his chest. I don't know what that's about, whether he's collecting footage or he just wants to document that he was there. They also included two printouts or two snapshots of a front page article about the individual. So let's get into his history fighting ISIS, because this is what strikes me as very interesting and important. We now have somebody who is participating in these Denver area protests who not only went overseas as like a citizen volunteer to join a war against the Islamic Caliphate, but now this individual who, according to his report and interview with the Daily Beast, which we're going to get into later on, he said that he saw frontline combat and used AK-47s and grenades. Now, why is this important? Because essentially we have somebody who has been trained on the field, at least to some extent, and has used weapons in a vigilante form, right? I don't know that this is like an official government group that he joined. He joined the Peshmerga. I'm not very well versed in how this group was founded, whether or not they're a proxy government group or if this is like a citizen militia kind of deal. But regardless, this individual traveled all the way to the Middle East to take up arms against a caliphate and then proceeded to return to the US, where he is now participating in anti-police protests. Now, whether or not you want, like, and I totally get this, the fact that he went overseas to fight ISIS, which, like, ISIS is very bad. We don't like ISIS. I personally am not a fan of ISIS. I don't think that they do great things. I think that they harm a tremendously larger amount of people than they help. And I think, obviously, I mean, they're a terrorist group, right? Like, they're a terrorist group. And so, yes, it is very, like, nice and moral of him to go ahead and fight these guys, right? But at the same time, what we have to acknowledge is the fact that this person, kind of in a vigilante form, went to fight one of the most horrible terror organizations the world has seen, like, you know, in at least my lifetime, and is now coming back and participating in the Abolish the Police protests. I think that's something that warrants scrutiny. So let's get into it. This guy, Michael Windecker, what did he do? So in a report on transnational volunteers who traveled to fight ISIS, Michael A. Windecker was listed as one of 14 Americans who went to the Middle East to join the Peshmerga in their fight against ISIS militants. He reportedly traveled to fight with the Kurds sometime in 2014, although the exact date of his travel is undocumented. Now, like the majority of Americans who traveled to fight with the Peshmerga, Windecker actually saw time in combat. And I'm sorry if I said like the majority, that's unlike. Most Americans did not see frontline combat. However, Windecker claims to have seen time in combat, and it must have been true because ISIS did reportedly put a price on his head.